Well, I know that Scott has said that he has a jam-packed presentation for us. He's pretty excited to talk to you guys about what the happenings are over at the Iowa Valley Habitat for Humanity. So we'll get started here. Thank you for joining us at the Johnson County Affordable Housing Coalition's monthly community meeting. I am Jessica Andino. I am the executive director here at the coalition, and many of you are members. So thank you all for joining us today over your lunch hour. Feel free to interrupt me at any time. I'm always available and open for questions about what's going on at the coalition or within our community related to housing. And then Scott will determine if he takes questions at the end of his presentation or in the middle. We make up the rules as we go. So I always like to start off these meetings with a brief kind of community update. What have we been up to over here at the coalition, and why are members paying dues? I do a lot of things, and I like to highlight them here for you. In community outreach and education, we've been teaming up with Greater Iowa City, Inc., with Sarah Thompson, the Rural Development Director over there, to do some listening posts in Johnson County. We have gone to Lone Tree, and then we will be going to Oxford the first week of August. Those serve as just listening posts in order to hear community concerns and priorities about rural development and housing. Some of you might have seen us, or possibly even a puppy, at the fair. We were at the Johnson County Fairgrounds in the air-conditioned building with our giant Legos in collaboration with the Johnson County Livable Communities Policy Board's Housing Action Team. Side note, we have those big Legos for use for any of our community partners or events that you might have that you would invite us to. Plugging something else for Habitat here, we will be at the Frame-a-thon this weekend with our big Legos. So if you happen to be free from 10 to 1:30, you can check out their new warehouse and paint some 2x4s with me and possibly my kids. Another thing we're working on is promotion of accessory dwelling units. Those are ADUs. You see them mainly in different ways throughout our community. Some call them carriage homes, some call them apartments, but we are working on advocacy efforts and getting those changed for all municipalities and unincorporated areas of Johnson County. So that is actually on the docket for North Liberty coming up. So North Liberty is making some headway following what Iowa City has done.
The Jeep right there.
Then we also have our spring rental snapshot. In case you haven't been up on my emails, which I invite everybody to subscribe through our website, we have released our spring rental snapshot. So we had an intern pull all of the available data back in March from the listing site of Zillow. Zillow's a real estate marketplace for buying and selling and just informational use. I had them pull all of the active listings for rentals in the city limits of Iowa City, North Liberty, and Coralville. Obviously, there's a lot of limitations to this type of data collection. Please don't tell my PhD advisor or candidate that we did it in this way, because there are lots of limitations and we're going to get better and better and better as we go. But it provides a really good cross-sectional study of seeing where we are, place and point time, of the available advertised rental units in Iowa City, Coralville, and North Liberty. So you can see from there that housing here is pretty darn expensive, and we need to keep pushing and making rules, ordinances, and policies that are equitable for all to be able to have safe, decent, stable, and affordable housing here in the neighborhood of their choice. So I won't leave this up too long. Again, Scott has a very exciting presentation for us all today, but I do have this in a PDF format, and I do plan on presenting these to the City of Iowa City, City Council, Coralville Council, and North Liberty Council. But this is something new that we have started, and we will continue this on every single spring to have that longitudinal data for comparison in the future. Going back to other projects and programs, we also have 2 current interns that are working very hard from the School of Public Policy and Public Affairs at the University of Iowa. One of them is working on an event and mini study about manufactured housing residents and the water cost burden that they are experiencing. As you know that those are vulnerable populations, residents of manufactured homes, because they're halfway homeowners. Most of the time, manufactured homes are built on the fringes of towns. So the specific mobile home communities we're looking at are ones that draw from DNR water, not municipal water, and they're often on boil ordinances because of lack of control and infrastructure to their homes. So we are going to be hosting an event on Monday about water cost burden and water quality rights for those residents. So one of our interns, Sophia, is working on that. She's also working on the student build program and looking at potential funding, partners, and other resources to keep and sustain the new student build program going, not just in this next year on Ronald Street, but into the future as well. So Sophia's got a lot on her plate, if you can't tell. Then we also have Giovanna. Giovanna is an architect by trade, and she is looking at infill lot opportunities within the cities of North Liberty, Iowa City, and Coralville. Again, seeing where is there open space that we could, in theory, put affordable housing or housing that is affordable and attainable for residents of those three communities. So she is having a lot of fun doing the PIV and GIS systems that are available through publicly available data sources. And then she will be overlaying the 15-minute cities variables, which includes distance to grocery stores, distance to schools, distance to transportation, and so on, to see where it would be appropriate for us to invest our efforts and possibly municipal or county money into housing that is affordable. The Iowa City's Pro Grant, if you haven't heard about that, the city of Iowa City was awarded $3.752 million to reduce barriers to development of housing. I'm going to be continuing to work with the city of Iowa City, and I have a meeting today at 4 o'clock with the primary writer of that grant to see how can the coalition be a more active member with the implementation of the projects between now and 2030. Other exciting things is that you may have heard that the ACT campus, which is over 400 acres, was sold to a private developer. I have some unique internet sleuthing skills in my background, and I was able to find said purchaser. And I was able to actually set up a one-on-one meeting with this developer. So we'll stay tuned. They know of us. They want to partner with local nonprofits. And there's not much other update because things are still kind of in the works over there, but we're getting our feet in through the door. That's the number one part, right? We want to get there early to be able to influence how projects go forward. Same thing goes with the former Forest View site off of North Dubuque Street. I have met twice with the one of the partners on the development team over there, and I have facilitated getting one of the developers involved with a meeting with our partners over at CWJ, and then also with the former residents, of Forest View, so the Tenants Association and Residents Association. So plugging along and doing as I think I should, but as you are members of the coalition, tell me what I need to know. Tell me what I need to do. I'm always here for feedback, but I do ask things of you guys as well, which includes attending City Steps. City Steps 2030 has some public input meetings that will influence how the city of Iowa City will utilize HUD pass-through funding for the next 5-ish years. I believe it's 2025 through 2030. There are 3 public input meetings, one on Tuesday, one on Wednesday, and one on Thursday of this upcoming week. If you follow our social media, I'll be pushing those out as well. But there are opportunities to actually hear voices, which is wonderful. If you're unable to attend those public input meetings, they also have online surveys that are available in 4 different languages. So if you know of others that also cannot attend, or some that may not feel comfortable in those settings, they can do that anonymously online as well. So, I talk really quick. I try to get this done, but there's just not enough time in a day, my friends. All right. We did the spring snapshot, but now this is actually the fun part. I love listening to our partners and the exciting on the ground, doing the hard work individuals in our community. So without further ado, I get to introduce Scott Hawes. Scott serves on our board of directors. He actually is our fearless secretary that takes the meeting minutes for our meeting. So thank you, Scott, for always volunteering for that. And he also volunteered to talk today at our July monthly community meeting. on behalf of Iowa Valley Habitat for Humanity. Our local Habitat Humanity has been here since 1992, and it serves not only Johnson County, but Iowa, Cedar, Johnson, Louisa, and Washington counties. And Scott, as we were talking right before you all hopped on, has ran the gamut over at Iowa Valley Habitat for Humanity because he has been there almost 8 years, starting as AmeriCorps, correct? All the way up to executive director. So I am very privileged to be able to call Scott one of my friends. Hopefully he says the same about me. And I'm very excited to learn more about how Iowa Valley Habitat for Humanity fits within the model of affordable housing here in our community. So welcome, Scott.
All right, guys, I'm up. So as I pull up my presentation today, I wanted to point out something that I think is kind of cool. Charlie Eastham, who is joining us today, was one of our founding members. And when I was digging through some paperwork, I don't know, probably a year or so ago, I noticed that he was on our articles of incorporation. So I thought that that's kind of a cool and fun fact. So thanks, Charlie. All right. So I guess I want to start off by kind of reminding everybody something that is probably at the very least intuitive to everybody who's here, but I think is also important to just to state and kind of keep in mind that the lack of affordable housing and the affordable housing crisis comes with a lot of different solutions. And the people who need affordable housing come with a lot of different challenges and a lot of different barriers. And so, you know, I look at the folks who have a need for low barrier or no barrier housing, and that is certainly a part of the solution. So the work that Shelter House is doing to shelter the unsheltered. So that's an important part, but also it's an important part, like the work that the fellowship is doing and the Housing Authority to provide affordable rentals. Again, they're solving different problems for people who have different challenges. Partners in the coalition who provide case management services, so DVIP and UAY and some of those other organizations that are providing housing and case management, they're solving problems and challenges for just kind of folks who have unique needs. And so with that in mind, we solve problems for people who, again, have kind of unique needs. And so we'll go over that. We'll go over what our solutions are and what those challenges that the people that we work with and the people that we serve are facing. So we have three programs. We focus, of course, on home ownership, and we do that really through 3 programs. The first one is our home ownership program, and we'll get into each of these as I go through the presentation here. But it's where we build and rehabilitate houses and then sell them to low-income folks, low-income defined by HUD. And make sure that their mortgage payments, property taxes, and homeowners insurance are less than that 30% threshold. Our second one is our Helping Hands Repair Program. We've been at making repairs since 2018. We consider January 1st of 2018 really kind of the inception date of our program. So we've been at this for a little over 6 years now, almost 6 years. And we've had some really nice projects, and of course our last one is Restore, which has a couple of different purposes, and we'll go over those at the end. So we'll start with home ownership. This is the program that most people are familiar with, and even if you don't necessarily know Habitat, you probably know of our home ownership program. And we build and rehabilitate homes for folks who earn less than 80% of their area median income. And it is home ownership. It is true home ownership. We don't give the homes away. That's a common misconception that we build the house and then we just give it away. the buyers and the households, they pay a loan, they pay the property taxes, they pay for insurance, they pay for maintenance and upkeep. And then when it comes time for them to sell their home or resell their home, then they get the benefits and the rights that come with home ownership, including some equity that oftentimes is transformative. And we can talk about that a little bit. Another really important part and certainly a big challenge for us is structuring payments so that they are no more than 30% of gross income. And that's the upper limit. We really shoot for, and quite honestly do a very good job of keeping it lower than that. Our internal aim is to be less than 28% of gross income. So stated aim, 30%, but it's important to us, and it's an important part of our mission to come in below that. Our financing packages are complicated. I've heard our friend Alan McCabe refer to them as lasagna closings or lasagna financing, and that's a really good way to describe it. So the way that we structure it is there is a partial loan from a third-party lender, and that partial loan is interest-bearing, but it doesn't cover the entire amount of the loan. So we have to scrape together some down payment assistance. We have to fundraise. We have to look under rocks, behind doors, and look for the remaining amount between what the homeowner can qualify for and pay for from a third party and what the sales price is. So a lot of that comes from down payment assistance through the city of Iowa City, is a frequent supporter of this program. We have a couple other sources that we receive down payment assistance from, including our area support organization. Sometimes it's not much, but sometimes we can even try to tap into IFA's programs. And then we round it out by putting on a silent loan of our own. So when there's still a gap, and with almost every home that we sell, there is still a gap, we subsidize that with a loan from Iowa Valley Habitat for Humanity. It's a silent loan, meaning that they don't make monthly payments on it. And when they are finally ready to resell their home, then they may have to pay some or all of that loan back, depending on how long they've lived in the home. So again, this is a fun challenge. It's one of the things that keeps me up at night, but it is also a really important part of our mission. And it's how we make sure that we're keeping the houses that we build affordable. So since December of 21, we've served 76 individuals. We've built and closed on 15 homes in that time. And of those 76 individuals, 50 were children. And I think that this is also really cool. 2 of them were adults over 50. So we had multi-generational households. And the matriarch of the family moved in and had, for the first time in their lives, safe and accessible housing, which is, again, something that we're proud of, and also shouldn't be underestimated as a way to serve and impact the community, because those folks who are over 65 and living with adult children and their grandchildren oftentimes really struggle to get accessible housing that they can afford. All the households that we serve in Johnson County earn between 40 to 80% of the area median income. So kind of back to that original point that I was making, we're just unable to subsidize the cost of the house so much that we can serve folks under 40% of the area median income. If we attempted to do that, we could maybe do it once or twice every couple of years, but the subsidy would be just too much for us. And so it would really limit the number of individuals and the number of households that we serve. So 40 to 80% is who we're serving. And oftentimes that's people who have a lot of different jobs. We see individuals who have 2 and 3 and 4 jobs. In fact, I would say that that's our norm. Some families and some households are lucky enough to have a little bit more reliable income, like maintenance at the University of Iowa. We've worked with and served paraprofessionals in the school district, line workers at P&G, and some of the manufacturing plants around the area as well. So again, we're looking at and serving the folks who have stable income so that they can make that payment back, both to make the payment on their home and don't risk foreclosure, or we attempt really hard, or we put an emphasis on putting the families in a good position so that they're successful homeowners and so that they don't have to worry about foreclosure. So of those 15 homes that we've built in the last couple of years, 10 buyers were living in overcrowded apartments, and this is a very common problem that we see. 6 and 7 person households living in 2-bedroom apartments, and that creates a lot of different problems. But one of the biggest ones is that it just makes it a really uncomfortable place to live, and you can't study if you're a child and you have a big test, or you just want some peace and quiet to get away from your little brother or little sister. So those overcrowded apartments are who we serve most frequently, and they're just not able to afford to buy a home without a little hand up. For the families that we've served in the last couple of years, we're living in mobile homes. And then one individual feared, or one household feared for their safety. There were a couple of things behind it that were a little bit frightening. So that's who we serve, and really what we focus on and what keeps us going in getting out of bed every morning is our impact, and this is something that we're really proud of. And we like to remind our supporters and remind members of the community that we're building strength and stability, not just for the individuals, not just for the households, not just for the neighbors, but for the entire community. So when we build homes, it's got different levels of impact. Something I want to share with you, see if this works.
By the way,
All right, guys.
I'm holding a frog in that photo, and it was very exciting for those children for me to place that frog on their arm. Okay, we did some building, and then we played with frogs. It's fine.
And then we played with frogs. Yeah. So you guys can see this document that says affordable housing is a public health issue. You cannot.
No, change your options.
All right. Perfect. All right. So this is something that again, those folks who are studying social determinants of health and how housing impacts all that are pretty well versed in this. But this is another thing that we want to continue to emphasize, that affordable housing and affordable home ownership makes a big impact on the health of individuals and families. So a couple of years ago, Habitat for Humanity of Minnesota, again, it's not specific to our state or our community, but Habitat for Humanity of Minnesota did a survey of Habitat homeowners, and these are the results of the survey. And there's some really important and enlightening things. 78% of the respondents said that they feel safer after buying and moving into their Habitat home. And 29% reported reduced doctor's visits. 47% of the people who had respiratory problems, 47% reported a reduction in the symptoms. So anyways, I don't want to bore you guys with this because you all can read. But there are a few things that I think are really important, and that's the impact of affordable housing and affordable home ownership on children. And so when I look at these results, I see that children who have stable housing go to school more often, are more successful in school because their teachers know who they are. If they need a little support from some extra services in the school, they are much more likely to be adequately served by those support systems, and not slip through the cracks because of frequent moving and frequent jumping around. They won't have gaps in their curriculum, and they are much more likely to go to college. So again, I don't want to, I'll be happy to share this with you all if you're curious about some of these things, but it is, it's an important thing to remember, that it isn't just about having a comfortable place to live. It's all of these other important impacts and results of actually having. So let me get back to my presentation. So, and then also another really important thing is that there is equity built up in the home when homeowners are making that monthly payment. That equity is transformative, and we've worked with homeowners in the last 2 to 3 years where they're using that equity to buy or to support their children as they're going through school, to get reliable transportation, to pay off other types of debt. So this household wealth is a really important piece, and it's also transformative because that gets transferred on to future generations. We build stronger neighborhoods. When you know your neighbors and your children grow up with the same kids in the same neighborhood and they go to the same schools, that's good for the neighbors, less likely to get into trouble. It's also nice to have those adults looking out for some of those children who are running around and riding bicycles, and all of those things are part of what makes an important community. And then, like I said, stronger communities. One of the bullet points that was on that sheet is that 56% of the respondents in that Habitat for Humanity of Minnesota survey reported that they're more likely to participate in civic life. And that is just a really telling fact about how staying in the same place, preventing frequent moving, really gets people invested in their communities, and then they can then in turn strengthen those communities. So that's about it for our home ownership program. I'm going to move on to our repair program, Helping Hands, but now would be a good time for questions about our home ownership program, if there are any. Nope. All right. Save them to the end.
Scott, do you plan on collecting any of that public health data locally?
That would be fantastic. If somebody's interested in lending a hand with that, we would absolutely be interested. It's at this point, manpower is a big barrier and we wouldn't really be able to take that on ourselves. There we go. All right. Our Helping Hands program. So we have 3 main services in our Helping Hands repair program. The first one is aging in place and mobility modifications. The second one is critical repairs, and the third one is ERMAR. So kind of the big picture is we want to make, and we do successfully make repairs for folks who are earning less than 80% of the area median income, who are homeowners, and are struggling to get that important repair, that needed repair, and as a result are simply just enduring inadequate and unsafe housing. And so we go in with our teams and with our volunteers and with our subcontractors to make it so that they don't have to deal with or endure unsafe housing, and also don't incur a financial burden. So when we were designing this, we looked around and we looked at some data, and we saw that because of just the wave of baby boomers reaching retirement age, we knew that there was going to be a greater need for modifications for aging in place and mobility. So we knew that that was a coming need, and we're seeing that play out. Also, another thing that we took into consideration is the aging housing stock. As our good friend Bob Welsh used to say, houses were Peter Pan houses, and they were built or designed as if we would never age and we would never grow older. And that's an unfortunate consequence that we're now living with. And a lot of these homes just aren't really friendly for folks who have different types of needs, and as their mobility changes, the older houses just aren't quite adequate. And then is just in general, there is still some inadequate housing, or quite a bit of inadequate housing here in Johnson County. So anyways, that's we looked at that and we came up with this conclusion that it wasn't just going to be a program that focused on one type of repair, but would try to focus on those 3 different services that I talked about earlier. Oh, real quick, we're just going to go over this. Well, we'll go over as long as it takes. But I'll just kind of talk to you a little bit about a couple of our projects, which will give you an idea of what we mean by accessibility modifications or aging. So we worked with a woman who was diagnosed with multiple sclerosis. Even though she was in her 40s, we consider this an aging in place project, because if she wants to age in place in 20 or 30 or 40 years, she's going to need modifications to her home. And so we approached this as an aging in place project. So the first problem that she had after being diagnosed was her shower, and in the bathroom, this is a really common issue. And that little 16-inch lip or tub causes a lot of problems for folks who have limited mobility. And so we replaced that with a low threshold shower that has grab bars, a handheld shower, and you guys can maybe see it right over here in the corner, but there is also a removable bench, so that when she's feeling strong and doesn't feel like she needs to sit down, she can just remove it. But if she does need to sit down, then it's at risk of falling. In addition to that, we analyzed other parts of the bathroom and found out that the toilet, I'm sorry, this is like the most boring picture in the history of the world. We found out that her toilet was also another big problem that she was having. And a simple solution is to just replace it with a comfort height toilet and put in some grab bars, and that solved a lot of her issues. Not necessarily an expensive part of the repair, but certainly a critical one, as that's one of the biggest biggest fall hazards is using the toilet. And then another important part of this project was the entrance. Moving in and out of the home was a big problem for her. And so we got rid of those 5 steps that when she was a little bit younger and before her diagnosis, she didn't have any issues with, but now she needed a ramp. And so we built a ramp as an important part of this project. Now, I can't remember, but I believe that the Housing Trust Fund of Johnson County supported this project. Second type of project we do is critical repairs. We'll consider just about anything for a critical repair. Critical repair projects often come with multiple parts. It's not just one thing, but it usually comes with a whole house evaluation in which we attempt to address multiple systems in the house. And they usually take a little bit longer. They're usually a little bit more expensive. So again, believe it or not, this is actually much worse than it looks. But this was a mobile home here in Johnson County. And when we went out and did the evaluation, it was like Swiss cheese, and there were leaks all over the place. So we had somebody, or we hired somebody to put a metal roof on, which would take care of those leaks. Interior of the house, after years of a leaky roof, had a lot of problems. Including holes in the floor, because some of that moisture had penetrated the flooring and got to the subfloor and then weakened the subfloor. There was actually a hole that he had stepped through. And so that's what those boards are covering is and being held down by the fan, is the hole in the mobile home. So our carpenters and our helping hands crew got to work. We fixed the ceiling, put in a new ceiling, and then reinforced the flooring. And then, so yeah, that was a time-consuming, a little bit more expensive project, but also one that took a home that was completely unsafe and completely inadequate, and made it safe and adequate. The last service that we offer is our ERMAR, or Emergency Repair and Major Appliance Replacement Service. So this little picture that you guys are looking at is not the problem. It is a symptom of the problem. This is the problem. So when we got up and looked on the roof, either well-intentioned but maybe not so skilled family member or neighbor or somebody attempted to put some shingles on to patch as a patch on the roof, and there were some problems with the patch. We'll just leave it at that. So we decided to do it properly, and so we removed the shingles that were leaky and causing problems. We put down new starter strips and new underlayment, and then put a new patch on. So again, we knew that this was an issue that needed to be addressed really quickly. We didn't have time to go through the process of bidding out and waiting for an entire new roof placement, new asphalt shingles. And so we sent our construction crew out and isolated the problem and made a temporary, sorry, not temporary, this is actually permanent, a permanent fix so that they don't have that leaky roof anymore. Other things that we consider in our ERMAR services, major appliance replacement. So we see a lot of stoves. We see a lot of refrigerators. We will consider just about anything, but we really make the problem smaller, and we can only isolate one problem or maybe one system at a time, as opposed to our critical repairs, where we'll try to extend that out and consider more types of projects. So since January of 22, we've completed ERMAR projects for 58 households. We've actually completed a few more projects than that, but that's just the number of households we've served. We've had a few repeat houses. We've completed 26 aging in place and critical repair projects in Johnson County. When you extend it out to the other counties in our service area, it's much more than that. We've served a total of 102 households when you include the rural counties that we serve. And an important part of this is that nearly all of our Helping Hands projects serve households who are under 50% of the area median income. And so, again, these are households that are experiencing different challenges than our other households that we serve with our homeownership program, because at one point, most of these folks that we're serving with Helping Hands were stable, did have reliable income, and then something in their lives has destabilized them. And so we're there to help stabilize them and make it so that they don't have to endure housing that just isn't right. Our last thing that we do, we call it a program, but there's a few other things to it, but is Restore. Restore is great because we are doing a lot of different things with it. We're helping the city of Iowa City with their waste reduction programs and their recycling programs. We are also diverting lots of materials that are completely good and usable. We're diverting them from the landfill and reducing consumption. And just as important, buying and donating things to Restore. We use those funds and we turn them into Helping Hands projects. We turn them into home ownership opportunities. So when you support Restore and you buy cool things there, and there are lots of cool things there, you're helping us build houses and you're supporting our mission. So certainly think of us when you're looking for that hard to find treasure, because we might have it. All right, everybody, that is kind of a summary of what we do in our programs. What questions can I answer for you?
I don't have a question. This is Ellen, but I do want to let people know how important the Helping Hands program is. As a person who answers the phone and greets people who have significant needs, critical emergency needs, it is such a blessing to be able to turn that over to the Helping Hands, an emergency program with Habitat, and know that the individuals are going to be assisted. It is quite a community resource essential.
Appreciate that. That's it's always nice to hear feedback like that.
Scott, what kind of extra, if you had a wish list for Restore, what would you add, subtract? What would be something that would help the Restore be able to generate obviously more funds for the projects?
Yeah, that's a good question. That's something that we wrestled with a few years ago. Kind of came to the conclusion that we would like a bigger space, and then the pandemic happened and we had to put that on the back burner. Ultimately we are eventually going to need a bigger space. Right now we've got a really nice partnership with the city of Iowa City, and we want to continue that. But I would say long term that would be our biggest challenge, and that will be something that we're going to have to start tackling here in a few years.
Scott, I wanted to ask you, I know you've done a lot of recent home ownership opportunities in the south side of Iowa City. Where's the next plan? Where's the next opportunity and avenue?
Yeah, so we're looking at building a home in Morning Sun. Morning Sun is a small town in Loiza County, for those of you who don't know. 728 people according to the last census. So we'll be building a home in Morning Sun next spring. Next year, we're planning to build a home in Coralville, and we'll continue developing some lots on the southeast side of Iowa City.
So Scott, let's say that people on this meeting today would be interested in becoming a board member. How would they do that?
Hey, we're looking for board members, guys. So if you are interested in joining our board or our committee, yeah, we're currently in the process of recruiting and having people kind of start that onboard process. So if you're interested, please reach out to me. A little bit more about that. We like to have the people who express interest join a couple of our committee meetings and get a little bit of an idea about our organization and our culture. And then after they've been to a few of our events and a few of our meetings, then see if it's a good fit. So anyways, please reach out to me, and I'd be happy to buy you guys a cup of coffee and we can chat about how you might be able to fit in with our organization.
Scott, you went through or are going through a strategic planning process. Is there any update or high points on that?
Yeah, so we came up with a few different goals, and one of our goals, or I guess not, I don't think that objectives is the right thing. Points of emphasis is to develop a comprehensive outreach and community engagement plan. So we're going to get started on that here later this year. So a lot of you who participated in our strategic planning process in the past will once again be asked to participate in our planning process for outreach and development. In addition to that, we're continuing to look at different types of opportunities that might be available. Building and subsidizing the sale of housing is extremely expensive. And so we're looking at what other types of models and opportunities might be available.
Thank you.
So Scott, just wanted to compliment you and Jessica, Ellen, other people on this call who have worked for many years over time to provide the kind of housing that people thrive in. I was especially impressed with your data and your information on the effect of housing stability for kids in their school age years. That's something the school district is very much concerned about. And we really compliment your personal effort, the organization's effort, Habitat's effort over time, especially, and everyone else who's engaged in the housing affordability issues in the community. There's actually been a substantial, in my view, change in community attitudes, community effort, community organizing ability since Habitat was originally founded. And that is in large part due to people like you who have dedicated themselves to a difficult task with compassion, skill, and commitment. So thank you very much.
Charlie, I really appreciate that.
I don't think anyone can follow that. All right, guys.
Yeah, that's a really nice way to end, right? So we're done. Hey, this is fantastic. It is it's very rewarding, right? And when you get to meet and work with some of these families and work right alongside them and see how their lives improve as a result of your efforts, that's really rewarding. And sometimes you see that improvement right away, right? And so if you go out and you build a ramp, or you make an aging place modification, you can see it almost immediately. Sometimes it takes a couple of years for that to come back, but we see it over and over and over again. Those families who we built homes with 10 years ago, now they're coming back and their children they're starting their careers and they're in high school, and we get to hear about those successes. And like I said, it's really quite rewarding.
You guys do great work. And again, I'll echo what Charlie said of not just the organization, but you personally, Scott. I know you put in a lot of effort as well. So thank you for being my friend and for being the amazing you that you are. We also have to thank our sponsors, of course. Without the effort from our sponsors locally here, we wouldn't be able to, number one, host these meetings and hear from great people like Scott the Man Hawes, but also just to further our mission over here at the coalition as well. So always like to thank, we have a couple of our sponsors on here today. So thank you again for your efforts as well. Even if you don't work directly in affordable housing, your sponsorship does go towards those efforts. We got a lot of things coming up. We got as I said earlier, we have a water rights informational panel that's put on by one of our interns that will be on Monday for manufactured housing. That will be over actually right across from Scott over there. You can probably see it out his window on the East Side Environmental Education Center. So that'll be again on Monday. Doing one of those listening posts, as I said, for rural development and housing over in Oxford the first week of August. Guys, did you know it's already almost August? Hate to break it to you, but we're almost there. So we'll be getting some coffee over there. We have a legislative update. This also came from Scott. I'm just going to keep throwing it at you. Scott had this wonderful idea. And so we have Janice Weiner and Eleanor Levin that will be presenting on a noon Zoom event on August 9th, day after our Oxford meeting, about the housing update from the previous session, and then also what should we be expecting going forward at the state level related to housing. Part of the student build program, there's a logo design contest going out. So it's calling all students to submit an entry into the logo design contest through the new website, studentbuildprogram.com. That could be hand-drawn or computer generated. So if you know any students of life, any age of student, they can submit their artwork that could possibly be on all the swag that goes out associated with the program going forward. There's also a $100 cash prize for the winning design sponsored by the Housing Fellowship. So that's a pretty cool opportunity, and also gets our name out there about the Student Build program of Johnson County. And then I'd be remiss if I didn't say, make sure to join us at our annual meeting. It's definitely for our members, but open for anyone. Most of you are members. Again, thank you for that. But that will just be, I guess, across from my parking lot here. We keep it all tight knit around here. Just over at Big Grove at the end of September. So mark your calendars for that as well. And of course, we keep having these monthly community meetings. One of our summer interns will be providing an update on their progress with infill lots. That will be Giovanna, architect by trade. So I have a feeling it will be a really, really interesting presentation that demonstrates what we can do here locally and have projects moving forward. So mark your calendars. It's the same link. I try to be consistent on that. At least our monthly community meetings, always the same link, always at noon, always fourth Friday, Zoom. And then we invite everybody that is on here that isn't a member or that needs to re-up their membership, because again, it's almost August, guys, to make sure to go to our website to re-up or create your membership today. Membership goes towards our cause, right, of being able to push our mission forward, being able to support Scott and Habitat and Shelter House and DVIP and Housing Fellowship and the Trust Fund and all the wonderful community partners that we have here with the coalition. So with that, Scott, did I miss anything? Did you need to go back and present a slide again? You look solid.
Now we're good.
Okay, we're good. Scott says we're good. We must be good, everyone. If you have any questions, comments, concerns, half of you have my cell phone number. If not, just ask me for it. I'll give it to you happily. But you can find me through email, in my office, social networking, all of that jazz. So thank you. And everybody have a wonderful and safe weekend, okay?